What is up, everybody? What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook live stream. And today we'll be talking about the eternal childhood, uh, the eternal 20th century Cold War mindset of the liberal mind. And I hope that I'm streaming on the correct platform at this moment. I'm going to double check that. Is it good? Okay. Anyways, so yeah, eternal childhood of the spotless mind. No, just before I start going into all that, I just want to say Stranger Things season 4 is out. In case you didn't know, we have kept up on all of the Stranger Things seasons so far. Holly and myself. Um, the you know it's written by 38-year-old dudes from the United States, so it's a millennial nostalgia fest for sure. Just generally speaking, it's citing it, all the Steven Spielberg movies, 1980s thrillers, sci-fi, all the Goonies and everything you can possibly think of, supernatural thrillers, uh, Poltergeist. This one's got a lot of Freddy Krueger vibes because there's a kind of killing you in your mind, in your dreams, sort of sometimes waking dreams, or walking around suddenly going into REM sleep with your eyes rolling in the back of your head in the middle of a conversation. But it's the killer is very Freddy Krueger like. Nightmare on Elm Street, which is just, it's part of like referencing the 1980s, 1990s, especially 80s though, movies, culture. It's got the last season before this one was like basically all product placement for everything you can imagine. Um, all of the favorite sodas and the malls and the Cinnabons. You've got prepubescent or sometimes pubescent, now post-pubescent, um, uh, young ones just kind of traipsing around, grabbing a Reebok shoes, and then surfing on some Sundays. Uh, you know, you know, trying to find a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Pop Tart, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's a very like synth wave, retro wave, which is vaporwave, mall wave. It's all based on like again, eternal childhood, eternal harkening back to what was in the 20th century. Um, and there's that famous speech, I talked about it last year, where the one of the token black kid in the four, which is also very 80s. We have the token black kid, the token POC, the token black kid whose younger sister, in the previous season 3, goes on this rant about the USS Butterscotch. I want my USS Butterscotch next to my American flag Sunday. And she goes on to think about how capitalism is the best system in the world. That's why we have the great stuff. That's why we have opportunity and freedom. um, I remember streaming about this like a few years ago when that season came out, and it was a very a lot of people at that time, a lot of left tube and bread tube and left world, and progressive world, they didn't really think much of, you know, they didn't really think a lot about what was being said. But I think it's part and parcel of like kind of, American brain, which, to be clear, I have a good part of that. Western brain, which doesn't really, which universalizes its experiences and its ideologies as perpetual, eternal, the best, exceptional, obviously, right? And nobody really thought about that speech, and what that really represents. But I think that's very telling. It's very telling, especially in this moment when, you know, the places like the United States are falling apart, where you have mass shootings on a regular basis, that the so-called great defenders, the police forces, are unable to and unwilling, obviously, to stop. Where you have babies dying because they can't get access to infant formula in the so-called greatest and wealthiest country, Western country in the world. Where you have like wildfires burning entire, swaths of the continent, You have every problem. COVID-19 rampant again. You're not going to go to any malls without getting permanent brain damage, lung disease, sickness, and or death. And so this tendency, like, I kind of point with this, is that like there is an eternal desire to harken back to this golden age. Like Make America Great Again doesn't only entail the right wing MAGA world. The liberal have their own version of it. It's just the time in which Britain has its own version of it. Just generally, all Western empires have their own version of it. All Western nations have this version of it. The British one is they read about when they were at the height. In their 1800s. In their pre post World War II era, when America took over for Britain. And they were textual. They relived their childhoods and their imperial childhoods, their imperial heydays, their golden ages through text. The United States is a more TV and cinema centric, motion picture based empire that maintains its verisimilitude across the entire planet. Right, the sun not setting on it through TV, and so Americans relive their / our heydays, our golden ages, when we were beating the Soviet Union, when we were on top, when everything was great, and we could just get all the chocolate USS butterscotches, and black children were not, were black girls had all the opportunity to become Oprah, and we were all just on this great path with a few scary Russians under our basements in our malls that might screw it up if they commit aggression against us, right? Russia invades the United States. Literally, they're underneath Hawkins, Indiana, plotting to bring transdimensional Hellraisers and Freddy Kruegers and Mind Flayers into small town America. It's literally the plot of Stranger Things season 3. Do you see what's happening there? It is total Cold War, which is U.S. empire heyday psychology and storytelling and narrative and conditioning and consent manufacturing, actually, is what it is. But it's just like living. It's just like life. Yeah, it is all those other things when you look at it from the outside, from like a 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 miles up aerial perspective. But when you're living in it, which I have, because I'm a millennial that was raised in what's calling itself the United States, it just feels like life. And so when you watch those shows, it's just like, oh yeah, I remember like watching the Goonies. I do remember watching the Goonies. My mom loves the Goonies. My mom's probably watching the Goonies right now. She's a 7-year-old Hawaiian lady. I love, Freddy, Hellraiser. I got scared shitless from Freddy Krueger, aliens, predators, all those things. There's a little bit of alien. There's actually one episode that has a very alien xenomorph like elongated skull. I was actually researching elongated skulls recently. Total side note, but a lot of peoples around the world actually did that. I wonder what there's something going on there. But anyways, there's this elongated skull xenomorph like critter that also is a supernatural predator and also arachnoid. But this is all like, I remember all these things, and I love all these things. I can't not. They're just like part of me. That's what Neofeud is. A lot of it is just like it's a smorgasbord of Western pop culture, history, literature, everything, life, period. But then like also going like, what, there's all these things wrong with it though at the same time, right? I'm trying to take all of that I was raised in and conditioned in, but then trying to like point to all of the problems with it internally, and there's like serious things on top of it. But Stranger Things like references all of the pop culture it sells. Coca-Cola. I was also just watching Rescue Rangers, the movie, which is not for kids. It's got Roger. Again, same thing. Disney owns every IP in the world. It owns all of the stories of the United States and the Western world post World War II. So you see Roger Rabbit, Bugs Bunny, Chip and Dale. I've got E.T. is being there's a movie called E.T. versus Batman, and at the end it's like E.T. E.T. loves Bat, and it's like this touching moment, and Batman's like, fine, and it's like E.T. and Batman are having weird romances on Mars with the Martians from Mars Attacks, and there's there's the chip, there's the Tony the Tiger is dancing with, you know, a gadget from Rescue Rangers. I'm sorry, it's the Fly, and there's like the Fly, and they have like all these babies. You've got everything: Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, all your stuff, all your stories, right? Which make up, the grist, the oxygen, right? The baseline that the United States, and by extension the West, breathes, and that hold it together, right? It's fiction and it's nonfiction stories. Nonfiction, I always put that in quote, the history books. And so like it's all there, it's all there for you to consume. And that's like, people gotta like check out a reality sometimes, because you can't be like living perpetually thinking about if your water is gonna come out with jet fuel tomorrow, or if you're gonna like become homeless, which you probably, good chance that it might happen, or if your children will be shot in school and the cops will stand outside and wait, checking their phones and playing solitaire and restraining parents from saving their children. You can't be thinking about that all day long, but that is the present. That is the present, right, of the end of the United States and the West period, as an imperial structure, as a world dominating masters of the universe sort of hegemon. It's the end. So especially in the last decade, you see a lot of 80s and 90s, and that's basically all they do. 80s, 90s, British like to do 1800s because that's their heyday, right? They don't really do things about the present. If they do things about the future, it's all dystopian hell. It's like apocalypse, and it's don't look up, meteor is gonna hit and destroy everything on Earth, or it's Station 13, like COVID, zombie apocalypse, something apocalypse. There's no future. There's no future for them. For them/us, or at least that part of my mind. But it's like, there is a future, but it requires more examination. But anyway, back to Stranger Things. And so the interesting thing about Stranger Things is there's a lot of things going on there. I mean, there's some things I liked. One thing I did like about this particular season is the D&D the D&D group, with their the metal. Let me see if I can get a picture of that, dude. Let's see, the Stranger Things D&D group with Eddie, the metal kid, the metal hair, Hellfire Club leader, who goes on constant rants, I'm sorry, not rants, high frequency jet engine decibel passionate education stints, not unlike myself, in the middle of high school. I don't usually do that in the middle of a 80s idyllic suburban high school. I don't usually do that. I do that into cameras and on microphones somewhere in a cell phone or a flat screen coming soon near you. But this dude is constantly he is kind of like a symbol of like that there's a satanic panic happening, and then there's the kids become they've always been playing D&D. This is the thing. They've always been playing D&D, which is another thing. Oh, I remember playing all that D&D. Everybody remembers playing D&D. Well, not everybody. Weird nerds. And later on, we're going to have a panel called Being Alt/Goth and a Person of Color in about a few hours on the other streaming service. But anyways, and this is the thing is like the Dungeons and Dragons is a kind of for weird. He's like the weirdos and the freaks and the outcasts. Like me, he's like a D student. He's like 21 years old or something. He's like been failed like 5 times, and he said, "This year I'm gonna finally get that D+ and graduate." I feel like I can feel it coming in the air And anyway, so the group is very much like when we talk about we're going to be talking about this. This is going to be the second Alt Goth POC panel, by the way. And so, like, being a metalhead, being an alternative person, being a goth, being a weird D&D playing outcast, right? Like with just kind of like not the cool basketball player, football, varsity jacket dude, because there is that guy in the high school. It's very Breakfast Clubby this season. It always is, but you know, it's very late 20th century high school experience. You know, late 20th century, uh, 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 you know, um, uh, um, teenage hormone filled turbulent experience. And so this character is very much like symbolic. I've done a lot on like Peacemaker and like the meaning of that, and like the long hair and metal, and how like that, and it's being also being queer, but like not able to fully understand or express what is happening in, you know, a homophobic, transphobic, capitalist, racist, etc. United States, circa, well, definitely forever, but especially in the Cold War era, right, where being a pinko kami was bad. So there's something like there's something to like, they don't really say it. The Duffer Brothers are like, they're 40-year-old very privileged white dudes, so they don't really say it as strongly. Well, James Gunn says it more strongly in Peacemaker, and then it's more strongly said in Our Flag Means Death. But being a queer or non-white or just weird person, or just somebody not fitting in, you know, a Cold War era United States, or any Western, you know, cis white heteronormative capitalist liberal democracy, puts you in this position, right, where there are alternative identities, and so but they are they themselves often get commodified, etc., etc., etc. That's what alternative music and the Smashing Pumpkins were about. But I like how like the characters are, at least that's expressed in the show, and you know, just being a sheep and fitting in is like is it's always been a thing for people in, you know, in the particularly for like the post World War II era. And so all those people, and so all of them are not fitting in because of their skin color. You know, it's a lot of that kind of remind me of The Craft, right? You know, this little bit. It's not The Craft, but in The Craft, right? It's instead of like four dudes in high school not fitting in, The Craft was you know, it was for goth chicks in high school in America not fitting in. So you have the non-white girl, right? There's the poor girl who have the abusive parent. That's a lot like that. The Eddie character is a lot like that. You know, he's like, his mom is not there. They're gone. He lives with his uncle who works the shitty job. He's like Harry Dean Stanton. I visualize him like a longer haired Harry Dean Stanton that's actually from Britain, but he's like discount American because he's British, and they're like they work for cheaper. He's a British Harry Dean Stanton, because the actor is actually British who plays this guy. I looked it up. Anyway, so he's like his uncle is a poor working, like lower working class person working the decaying steel mills, right, that are becoming future Bitcoin processing plants that explode circa now. His uncle is you know, maybe an alcoholic, and he lives in a little trailer, and he's like not very well to do, and he's kind of he's expressing his kind of like difficult childhood and teenagehood and upbringing in this weirdo-ness, you know. And then he's kind of got his long hair, he's got his Hellfire Club, he's got his demon horns, he's like leading into the satanic panic. He's got like watching Ozzy bite the heads off of bats or reading about it, and being the DM, voicing the Mind Flayer or the Vecna satanic Freddy Krueger stand-in that's coming to get your level 14 elf, and all the kids have to come together in their D&D session and shoot their magic missiles, right? And they play their D&D. They have to shoot their magic missiles, and their I'm trying to find the D&D picture, and their you know, use their backstab skill of their kukri wielding you know, halfling to take down this, you know, it's all D&D fun times, right? It's all the stuff that you do to escape dystopian American reality. Now it's dystopian for almost everyone, but it was more so for people who were like, for example, in The Craft, it was a non-white girl, it was the poor, and so the girl on the second from the left, she lives in like a poor family in a trailer, and they're like everyone's just yelling at each other all the time, and there's a lot of violence at home, and she's expressing that in school. This troubling, psychologically distressing, childhood in wearing black and just being the scary weird girl in the classroom, and having spikes on the collar and black and upside down crosses and oh, you're all Satan is Satan, and dark forces, demons are coming through, just like in The Exorcist, and crawling on the ceiling. That actually is referenced in Stranger Things as well. They're making our children crawl on the ceiling and vomit up, and they're saying things like your mother sucks cocks in hell, and it's these demonic Satan worshippers like Ozzy Osbourne and Marilyn Manson, and well, that guy's kind of anyways, but and what else later, and Led Zeppelin, etc., and all of their D&D playing. They're all like playing too much Lord of the Rings / Heavy Metal 2000 video games or games or tabletop. I don't know what they're doing, but when you listen to pigs, war pigs backwards, it sounds like Satan saying, I'm gonna eat your soul and burn you in a ninth circle, and that's all the satanic panic stuff kind of went along with all the alcohol stuff. Anyways, so I like all that's kind of like played out. But anyway, my point was that when we unwind that tangent, the second character from the right is the kind of like the Eddie sort of character, the poor outcast person. The left character is the new girl, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and one of them is the girl that has a lot of scars. And has a lot of disfigurements, and they all like each one of those things you see, and that happens to 11, right? That happens to 11 in the beginning of in the other part of Stranger Things. 11, escape, like it's like a Wolverine, not really Wolverine. It's like a X-Men mutant. Some kind of science experiment, something, comic book backstory. Comic books are just for weird liberal nerd children to try to deal with their reality by becoming superheroes and courageously saving the world that they can't save because they're American citizens and scared. But anyways, 11 is a psychological, telekinetic, superpowered, mind controlling, or matter controlling, kind of like Jean Grey a little bit. Stuff who was used by the U.S. government, military, something secret organization to, as some kind of MK Ultra like weapon program, and gets escaped from that. And now in 11 in season 4 starts off getting bullied by the mean girls. So it actually. 11 is actually kind of going. Let me see if I can find that part. Yeah. So in this bit, 11 is for getting bullied. Yeah. Yeah. This girl, the popular, looks like some kind of Callie Barbie looking character, is there bullying 11, who is the new girl, and kind of unusual because 11 was psychologically experimented on until around the age of 8, 9, unclear. I forget exactly the age. But so it's kind of like, as the new girl, right? It's like 11 is going through those same like high school outcast experiences, like the one character on the left, and then you have the character. There's not actually, to be honest, there's not Stranger Things doesn't really touch on the racism aspects of the United States and the West. It reminds me a lot of The Expanse in that way. And you know what I think about The Expanse, right? It's like the non-space opera but also science fiction-y Expanse, right? This Expanse is this bullshit artist show where colorblind Western world stops the end of the galaxy by destroying the global south. Basically, that's what it ends with. So that's why I hate this fucking show. Anyways, they don't really deal with the racism very much. There are like black characters in it, But that was actually something that was kind of disturbing to me. So I can't really comment on like in the craft, the the black girl on the right going to the Catholic school gets literally called the N-word in school, like by Reese Witherspoon. None the you know, I don't know, you know, literally it's I'm pretty sure is it Reese Witherspoon? I'm pretty sure it's Reese Witherspoon, The Craft. Let me just double check that. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. But anyways, it's basically like the high school Barbie cheerleader calls the black girl the N-word to her face. And she's like, "We don't like your people in our nice school," basically. In our nice, and it's also in our nice Californian school, our nice blue state school. We don't like your N-words around here. And like that doesn't really happen in Stranger Things. Like this, you don't really get that. The young black girl is basically like the soulful. She's like the like the Jordan Peele. You ever seen this sketch? If you never seen it, watch the Jordan Peele and Key and Peele, the magic N-word fight sketch. Okay, where there's some white guy having a spiritual midlife crisis, right? Wondering if he's gonna be a you're asking me why am I bringing this up right now? It's gonna come. This is the character of this. I would argue that the Jordan Peele's and Key's magical, wise old black janitor helper, right? Jordan is, I'm just emptying out your garbage, but you know that's what life is like. It's like a bag. It's like a can full of garbage. It feels so good. It fills up, but then it feels so good. They empty it out, and the Key is like the magical N-word, basically crypto slave who's like fixing your copy machine. You know, life is like a copy machine. You know, you always got more copies coming out. You know, just giving you wise though. Until the white guy making millions of dollars as a CEO of the company, right, exploiting black labor that's underpaid and having racism thrown at it. And he's like, I don't know, should I marry this rich white doctor lady or this supermodel? I don't know what to do with my life, right? And then he gets advice from the two black janitors, and then they have a magical janitor fight. It's fucking hilarious. But anyways, but it's riffing on the actual tropes but my point is that their characters are embodiments of how black, spiritual, soulful, non-white peoples understand from the outside the eternal childish mind of the Westerner, of the American, who don't understand themselves, right? And then some black old lady, maybe it's Octavia Butler. She come in and she like, woman, girl, you just gotta get it, Sandra Bullock. You just gotta get it, Hillary Clinton, stand in. Just you gotta ditch that boy. It's like, oh, and then the white woman or man has this epiphany. Oh, that's what I gotta do with my life. Thank you so much, soulful, wise old black blues singer. And it's like, I mean, not false, but it's also kind of like, it's always this like token black character, especially for most of the 20th century in these movies. The magical N-word that's gonna come, the magical black person that comes in and gives me this wisdom. And thank you. Now go back in the box and keep on taking out my garbage for $7 an hour and being homeless, right? Or being deeply impoverished. So, but when we watch those movies, even as people of color, because when you're a Westerner, it doesn't necessarily mean white. It can mean black, brown, Asian, whatever. You incorporate yourself into that. You're seeing yourself in the liberal movie. You're seeing yourself inside, like John Malkoviching your mind that's transposed into a white body, looking out at yourself, right? That's always a lot of like Neofeud and a lot of these streams. It's like kind of like figuring out that's this weird thing that's happening there. It is always happening there because I was, the way that, again, we're like raised in the Western education, culture, indoctrination, life ways, really, actually, a lot of it. And then, but at the same time, it's this weird, and that's a lot of what the All Goth POC panel is also about, is dealing with that. So, but the eternal childhood, and the childhood doesn't necessarily just mean like literally being prepubescent. Eternal childhood of the 20th century Cold War liberal mind can also mean, and Western mind can also mean just like an inability to deal with the true nature and the scary problems and the difficult problems of reality. Not being an adult is another way to think about it, right? Is being perpetually wanting someone to save you and take care of you and not able to deal with the problem. Like, mommy and daddy come deal with the problems. Mommy and daddy deal with the mass shootings. Mommy and daddy deal with the skyrocketing inequality. Mommy and daddy deal with my rent. Mommy and daddy come deal with my broken policing, my mommy and daddy, or my slave catching, that's called policing. Mommy and daddy come save me from Russia. Mommy and daddy, US government, US military, Iron Man, Superman, Spider-Man, number 11. Somebody come in, some superpowered police or military or government or someone. Some like deliberate. We're gonna fund more police, and that will solve the crimes and the mass shootings. Some Superman out there is gonna come in, the super cops, super police, super military, right? G.I. Joe is gonna save us from evil Russians and evil Chinese and evil terrorists in Iraq, right? Evil WMDs coming in to get us, right? It's the perpetual, but that's just the all of the Western mind is like that. The British mind, the Spanish, the French mind, these are all fear of the replacement. Oh, somebody just stopped us. I mean, the conservative mind is basically that, but just a little more mask off racist. Oh, will somebody save us from all of this replacement? We got to get more cops to deport all the black and brown people, right? So it's an eternal childhood. It's an inability to face the truth of what your problems actually are, what the situation actually is. Right? What is the reality that's happening, and then face those problems head on, and then you don't solve them, but you try to like deal with them, right? You try your best to deal with them. And the American mind is incapable of doing this. This is why they have to always look back into the past, right? And and again, you have to like take a breather and recollect some spoons and recuperate, for a bit, sometimes in the evening. But then you got to wake up the next day and go back to work, I mean, that's what adults do. I mean, children can just live in fantasy land forever, right? Which is where liberals live, right? Which is where the West lives, generally. Which is where liberal and conservative, in two different versions of reality. One of them is more great Western, quote unquote, civilization. Christian. The conservatives are going, we're living in the great Christian American white civilization being invaded by satanics. And the liberal mind is going, we're the atheist liberals who left Kansas and Hawkins, Indiana, went to New York, California, and Vancouver, became programmers and lawyers and marketeers for Lockheed Martin and Apple and FANG and industries. And we are resisting both those Republicans in the red states, and our great American civilization is resisting them and the Russians at the same time, who are killing our beautiful fighters in the Ukraine, who are definitely not Nazis. But these are two different, like, childlike, false depictions of the realities of what the United States' problems are, right? The people's problem, their own problems, right? They're like, my children are like, some of the Gen Z and millennials are kind of going, I'm over this crap. I'm going to have to deal with it. I'm going to have to actually like face this thing. I'm going to like organize it and get this capitalism and this colonialism and all of these interlocking imperialist structures. Like, I got to get this undone. I got a mutual aid. I'm going to like actually work on dealing with these problems, getting rid of this racist policing, over policing, and all of this carceral system and all of this poison in our water. And, But the liberal mind, it says no. All we got to do is just go back and make the Russians the bad guy again, like it was in the 1980s, right? Which is why Stranger Things season 3 centers the evil communist hammers and sickles. I didn't watch all of season 4, but this is a major problem, which is that Winona Ryder gets a box in the episode 1 covered in hammer and sickles. I want to see the box. I probably shouldn't have. I'm thankful that I didn't get Winona Ryder's Big Brown Beaver, the song, or actual weird porn when I typed that in. It's a bad thing to type. She gets a box covered in hammers and sickles. The signs of I'm not gonna find it. That's the wrong thing to type in there. Uh, uh, these are the Russians. That's the Russian bad guy. That's the Russian. The Russians are in the very beginning. Russia Gate everywhere. Fantasy. It's like fantasy football. 80s Russia Gate. Where, trying to find the hammer and sickle. But anyway, so my point is that it opens in the beginning of season 4. It opens with Winona Ryder's character getting a box full of Russian stuff, with a box covered in hammers and sickles, right? And so you immediately, it foreshadows, right, that a major and also I did a whole stream just on Black Widow and the Cold War era, bye Miss American Pie, 20th century Cold War American Empire nostalgia, fighting the evil evil communist Soviet Union, and those pinko commies. And the guy who plays Black Widow, the red Russian character in that movie, the Marvel movie Black Widow, is played by Hopper. This guy, yeah. It's funny because this guy who plays Captain Russia, the Russians are, and it's very badly depicted. The Cubans are depicted as terrible child abusers in this. The Russians are horrific, and the only good Russians are the ones that leave Russia and help capitalist American empire. So I'm not going to recap all my problems I have with Black Widow and every fucking Western movie, basically, but Marvel specifically and especially. That's one of the big ones I was talking about last year. But Captain Russia, the guy who plays Captain Russia, and he also plays Hopper, the actor. In this one, he plays Captain Russia. In Stranger Things, he gets kidnapped by Russians, and it's unclear what's happening. But that's the way season 4 opens, which is that the Russians are still out there. They're still out there scheming, conniving. They're in your elections, making sure Hillary doesn't get elected. Right? The Russians are causing COVID-19, or was it the Chinese? I don't know. What day is it today? Let me check my CIA docket. It's still this obsession with, like, they're here taking our people. They're threatening us. They're here to get us, and that's why we invest another $800 billion in the military, and send broken javelins and choppers and missile defense systems to people that are maltrained and are also Nazis and far-right ultranationalists, and get all those weapons destroyed and get millions of people killed, right? Which is what the U.S. is currently doing, by the way. So that's why I was very worried about that, because I mean, like, this is gonna. I'm not worried. I was very like, oh, what are they gonna do with this? Because especially now would be a great time for mainstream, leading streaming services that are currently flagging, like Netflix, having major losses and setbacks this quarter, like a lot of other tech stocks. Not that I care about giant AAA or mega tech companies, obviously, but like, well, what are they gonna do? But their main warning was, like, we understand that a mass shooting just happened in the United States. Some things in Stranger Things season 4 may be troubling to some viewers. That was the pre-show warning that was tacked on in the last, like, week, basically. And before the season 4 Stranger Things release, and it was like, I don't know, we're gonna see, but that's something you cannot separate. Why am I touching on all that? You cannot separate the eternal childlike brain and life of the 20th century, the eternal 20th century golden age stuck mind of the Western liberal, and the Cold War era eternal childhood, right? You can't separate that heyday of America from the Soviet Union, from Russia, and from communism. Russia and China, but in, especially Russia in the late 20th century. It's inseparable. All the wars that the United States fought, the vast majority of those wars, launched. As a native Hawaiian, just sidebar. I was a native Hawaiian. Launched from Hawaii, Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan. All the incursions into Asia, which is about stopping with the Brzezinski chessboard theory. Which is about attacking, especially and trying to isolate and break off and disrupt the Eurasian landmass from coming together under communism. And so that whole, that's like a zoomed out view, but like zooming back in, being inside of the United States in the time was inseparable from evil communists in the East, right? And coming to get you, possibly nuclear war coming for you under your Stetson, right? Red baiting, right? There could be a communist in your backyard, right? It is deeply, deeply part of that mindset. And that's the mindset that the neocons and the Project for New American Century people that currently run the United States and decide what shows get green lit and what kind of stuff goes in when they work with the U.S. military and the D.C., which they all do. Those kind of people are still running the United States today, and they're retelling these same stories of what's happening. And they're still in that same version of the world. Now you could say, well, some people were arguing when season 3 came out, well, the 80s was full of Red Scare, right? There was Red Dawn. I mean, it's also like that's propaganda. There's Red Dawn, and there was all these movies, and people were, and not just movies. There's all these news reports, and the nuclear clock was counting down. The Russians were coming for us. The Soviet Union was going to invade any second now, and we had to have these hair trigger alert, thousands of nuclear missiles set to shoot into Moscow and St. Petersburg, etc. Blah 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 blah. So that is deeply, like, Nick William Gibson is a writer that obviously I follow and I interviewed as the godfather of cyberpunk itself, and he said like his entire life is defined by, like, he actually himself said, use 7 words to define your entire existence. William Gibson was asked. He's a 70-year-old American man who lives in Canada and writes science fiction books and New York Times bestsellers, right? Like Neuromancer. And he said, World War, post-war, Cold War, after. World War, post-war, Cold War, after. Everything about his existence, and it's not false. He's not the only one, right? That's why people like his books, because he writes with a liberal mind. Everything about the existence of the boomers, the Gen X, but not just them, everyone, is defined by the wars and the wars and sometimes there are real wars. I'm not saying there's a real war in Vietnam. Ask Luna, but the wars that the Americans think they're fighting in their own mind, and the West and the British as well, especially the Anglo-Saxons, and to a lesser extent, but very similar, the other Europeans. The war that the Americans think the liberals think they're fighting in their mind, right, is not necessarily the same one that's actually happening. In their mind, they're valiant saviors of the universe, right? They're the Avengers, right? They're superheroes, right? They're like 11, right? They're like comic book characters, right? They're like Captain America, saving the world, defending freedom and justice and human rights. Now, they're not doing that. They're committing global genocide, bringing slavery, maintaining just horrific evil systems like capitalism and imperialism, colonialism, and white supremacy and racism across the world. But in their own minds, to their own citizens, which are perpetually being lied to, obviously, like William Casey said, when the disinformation campaign of the CIA is complete, when everything the American public believes is false. And so they succeeded, because virtually everything the American public believed, through fiction and nonfiction, fiction like this show, and nonfiction like all the history books and news reports, nonfiction, is resulted in everything they believe about. But the wars that Americans think they're fighting at all times, right? The Cold War, right? The Vietnam War, the Korean War, the wars they think to prevent the spread of. I was recently reading a report that said in the Vietnam War, there was actual like commander that said, I haven't killed a single Vietnamese person. The same day that he dropped like hundreds of bombs, like imagine Colonel Kilgore just like burning entire jungles, thousands of innocent women and children and some soldiers, but like countless just innocent people were incinerated in their rice paddies, just like slaughtered. He did mass slaughter, right? This American, like commander, and he said, "I didn't kill a single Vietnamese person today. What I did was I fought an idea. I didn't kill anyone today. I killed no one. I committed no crimes. I fought an idea. I fought this thing, this scourge called communism. And that's what I did today." And that's what he believed. That's what he said, and that's what he believed. "I fought the evils of the autocratic, despotic, unfree, and irrational system of communism. I did not kill a single person." And then John McCain also did that, and then he ran for president, So did Pete Buttigieg. And he said, "I didn't go to Iraq." Actually, this is perfectly illustrative of what I'm talking about. Pete Buttigieg, yesterday, it was in my thread about decolonizers. Okay, quick ad. If you want a game that is a detox and a rehab and a re-educate, or not a re-education, just an education for the first time about growing up out of that eternal childhood of the liberal Western capitalist mind, Decolonizers is a game about kicking capitalist colonizer butts, specifically out of Vietnam, made with indigenous native Hawaiian leftists and Vietnamese leftists. So there you go. But in that thread, which is about what actually happened in the Vietnam War, which is that the United States bombed the country in a Stone Age, committed genocide, killed over 1 million people, and most of them innocent, as they always do, and the Vietnamese kicked their ass still, even though the Vietnamese are still suffering this horrible atrocity that the United States committed. But part of the reason why, this is illustrative of this point. Americans still don't understand the Vietnam. That's why I made Decolonizers, is because the childlike Western and American brain is not even really capable, or certainly hasn't been even attempting to comprehend the reality of what their country is, Instead, lingering in this perpetual fantasy land where the communists are some evil force out there coming in like a mind flayer. The Russians are like trans-dimensional, soul-eating, black sludge and, covered in millions of teeth, fangs, and blood, and just zombifying your town, right? The Russians, like the Vietnamese, and who are just possessed demons by this communist scourge, coming to eat your little Hawkins, Indiana town, or your Californian Malibu paradise. They're just coming for you, right? And that's, but again, that's how the ruling class and plutocracy run the entire Western world forever, basically, including Greece as well. That was basically, it's really an ancient playbook. It's not really a new playbook. The CIA doesn't really invent anything. Anything that gets invented is usually black women, like the Hidden Figures inventing the post-Newtonian calculus to put Neil Armstrong on the moon, or the women who invented the entire internet protocols. But anyways, the point is that Pete Buttigieg, like Stranger Things, not just Stranger Things, like Western movies, cinema, etc., is also in denial of the reality. Pete Buttigieg, you may remember him, right? With his shadow app that was intentionally designed to mass flip votes from Bernie Sanders into his pocket. Anyway, the truth comes out, and it's just like, and then it's an incredible ability to just like instantly forget the past when the Wurlitzer jukebox of Western everything puts out Western media, fiction, history, everything, water cooler conversations, put out a new bullshit line for you to eat. Pete said, "I did not carry an assault weapon around a foreign country, so I could come home and see them used to massacre my countrymen." That's what Pete Buttigieg says. But the reality is, Pete, right? The reality is that's Pete's fantasy about what Pete did, right? Pete, the corporate-backed former candidate for president who got pretty far, right? And probably could still become president in the future. Pete viewed himself as Iron Man, right? As Captain America. as G.I. Joe, as, right, a good guy with a gun, right? That's the way that he views himself, right? I was a good man, and I happen to be gay. Look, aren't we so LGBTQ plus rights respecting in America? I did not carry an assault weapon around a foreign country, killing bad guys. That's what he did. He did special black ops for the United States. I didn't go around and save Iraq and Afghanistan. Save, I put that in really strong quotes, so that I could come home and see these AR-15s massacring my countrymen. Well, I mean, number one, they're massacring country children. You're massacring children. But anyways, Pete, but that's what he thinks of himself, right? But Pete carried an assault rifle around a foreign country in reality to commit genocidal war crimes, right? Like shooting 16-year-old Muslim kids in Fallujah or anywhere else in Iraq, which is something that they did. The United States did. And the soldiers participated in all these war crimes. Shooting children because they might be enemy, quote-unquote, enemy combatants in the street. They were ordered, and they followed these orders. They just shot random young 13, 12, 16, anybody who looked like they might be an adult, which most black, when you ask Americans and police and military, you ask young, like, how old is that kid? If it's a white kid, the kid could be like 18 and it'll say like 12. If it's a black kid, they estimate like to be a black 10, 11, 12-year-old are estimated to be always far older and already adults, worthy to be shot, basically. Because the U.S. is obviously, it's a racist, white supremacist, colonialist, capitalist system. But anyways, so Pete carried his rifle around and murdered people for the profit of billionaires that he works for, because the U.S. is run by billionaires and millionaires and for capitalism. And then, like what happened in Vietnam, and then he used that to run for president of the United States, right? Like John McCain, right? And that's why we have John McPain, right? This character, Mr. No Pain, No Gain. We can make it positive. Yeah. It's a shame we have to bomb the human rights, freedom, and capitalism into you people, speaking to the Vietnamese, but, no pain, no gain. So John McCain went to Vietnam and blew up countless houses, buildings, preschools, and hospitals in Vietnam. He killed innocent people in Vietnam. And then he came back to the United States, claimed to be tortured. The Vietnamese didn't do that. They actually were much more humane, like Russia, and also like China, and like the Iraq and other fighters were actually much more humane to the Americans, and the Americans were ever to them. And then John McCain came back from genocide for the U.S. to plunder, colonize, and enslave the Vietnamese. Now, they didn't succeed, but they did kill a million of them and bomb their country to the Stone Age. John McCain came back from that and ran for president, right? And he became a senator. He also helped back a Nazi coup in Ukraine to fight evil Russians. And McCain is not a liberal. McCain is a Republican, right? So this goes in all sides. This is not like the Western liberal mind. It's just a Western mind. But I mean, Stranger Things is more specific. Liberal is more democratic. Just from its mindset, it's trying to seem less racist, not be less racist. Seem less racist. That's the difference between the Democrats and Republicans. Competent fascists and imperialists and capitalists and racists versus incompetent fascists, imperialists, capitalists, and racists. That's the difference between the Republican and Democratic parties. But so the point is that like the reason why I made The Colonizers is because that story is not told, right? Or it's too little told, and it's not told in a compelling way. I know it's hard to tell it because nobody wants to hear it, because everybody is trained. The grist for the mill to tell stories doesn't include all the necessary truth and facts. It's so jarring, right? But it's so jarring to even see an Asian woman as a protagonist. That's what a lot of people's complaints were. I don't want to play an Asian woman, and I definitely don't want to play a Vietnamese Asian woman in Vietnam, and I definitely want to play an Asian Vietnamese communist woman, because all of those things are bad. Don't you know? Those are bad. That's what all of the books and history, movies, and games have told me for the last century. So I can't, and that's what, but now the thing is, the people from the global south, colonized people, like now my people that understand this stuff, right? Ex-US military veterans who like know what they did, like Jesse Ventura and those kind. They're like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, my country is the United States is doing terrible things to has done to the Vietnamese, to the Cuban, to everyone, to people in the Middle East, etc. Terrible things, and unforgivably broken at every level, right? But that's not a story that you can tell to the average American and Western consumer. So that makes it hard, you know. At the same time, that doesn't make that story, right? That doesn't make the story of the other side of this Cold War era struggle, right? Because again, Decolonizers takes place in the same time period as Stranger Things, right? In the Cold War era, it doesn't make the other side of the story less important. It just makes it like more difficult to tell, but also more necessary to tell. But I don't. Full disclosure, I don't, and this is the end of my ad for Decolonizers. I don't fully know how to tell that story, but I do know that it has to be told. So anyway, back to Eternal Childhood, because people just want to hear nerd shit. I know those 4 people that just left. They're just like, I don't want to hear about the Vietnamese. Silver Spook, you can talk about black people, Black Lives Matter, and indigenous struggles, but I don't want to hear anything about Asians. People tell me that all the time. Leftists tell me that. Leftists, Western leftists, they tell me that all the time. I don't want to hear about Asians. I don't want to hear about your struggles. They don't exist. You're only there to get us. But that's part of the Eternal Childhood, you know? It's like, there are humans on the other side. And the humans are not just the ones that defect, like Captain Russia and the Black Widow. There are humans inside of Russia. Do you realize that? Most people don't. They don't. Or if the closest they'll get is, I'll support those people overthrowing their government and being cleansed of their mind possession. But like, literally, right? When you say, you're all CCP brainwashed, do you, because what you're saying is everyone in Asia is a mind flayer infused zombie. You're saying they're all just complete idiots. They're all brain controlled. They're all mind controlled. But no, you can say that to, like, you know, the most brilliant minds in a Californian tech school. You can say that at anywhere in the West, in the United States, and people will just accept that line. Nobody thinks to ask the question, are they actually all just like zombified in Asia? With the exception of Japan and Korea. Why is it Japan and South Korea? But nobody asked that question either. Why is it that Japan has cool anime and robot dogs and aibos, right? And video games for me. And South Korea has K-pop stars and they're fun and liberated. But everyone else is just a complete brainwashed, agency-free zombie that's just ordered around by authoritarian dictators, right? Why did people, but nobody thinks to question that. The reality is the West is the one that's all zombified, ordered around, and the East actually understands who the West is. But that's not a thing that you can even say in anywhere in a Cold War, a perpetual 20th century Cold War childhood, liberal-minded or conservative-minded Western place. You can't even say that, right? And that's part, and that is a win. That is a win. That's not a win for Americans. That's not a win for Americans. That's a win for the people that are abusing Americans. Speaking of Red Dawn, like Carl, actually, this is directly ties into what we're talking about with the 1980s movies. Let's see if I can find that. Carl Jha, Red Dawn. Carl Jha is a Chinese. He runs a Silk and Steel podcast. And there is this. He had this image that was it was Red Dawn. Yeah, this one. So Carl Jha is a Chinese educator, a historian, and runs a Silk and Steel podcast about China. If you want to learn something about China, you want to actually learn something, not just like eat some State Department propaganda that's going to benefit capitalism, imperialism, and your plutocrats that are eating your healthcare and housing. Listen to Carl. Anyways, so Carl has this post. He said, "Let's make it happen. Chinese American Friendship Center, defeating your enemy." Right? And it's a red hammer with a single gold star smashing the U.S. Capitol, helping you back on your feet. Again, the Chinese. This is the original, by the way. The Red Dawn was recast as North Korea, the 2014 Chris Hemsworth starred movie, helping you back on your feet. All right, China helping you back on preparing your economy with a hammer, hammering your broken neoliberal, deindustrialized, dusty old, Detroit factories and homeless tent cities all over California, getting that economy and those jobs, good paying jobs going again, right? Getting you productive again. And somebody said, what did they say? How long until the U.S. bans these? I assume they are under CIA surveillance already. Somebody didn't realize this is from a movie. They thought this is for real. Cross says, lol, that is from the set of a Red Dawn remake. This is actually from the set. They recast all of the Chinese flags into North Korean flags. And it was the North Korean American Friendship Center when they recast it. But you know what? The reality is like, and that movie was about, I'll just show you. Red Dawn, Chris Hemsworth, right? And the movie was, he starred in it. Welcome to the home. Welcome, what did it say? When the war began. Welcome to the home of the brave, right? Olympus is down. All these fantasies about Asians attacking the capital of the United States. Gerard Butler was in them, let's see. Olympus has fallen, right? The Chinese, but it's North Koreans, I think, attack the White House. There's multiple of these. White House down. You got Morgan Freeman. You got all the usual liberal Western stars. White House down. It's basically the same fucking story with different white dude action heroes. Or black dude action heroes, but all Western. But it's like, Red Dawn was one of these that was an 80s movie about the Soviet Union invading the United States. So Stranger Things is directly referencing things like Red Dawn when it was referencing, when it had Russians in season 3 as a main antagonist. It was referencing the Red Scare and the Red Dawn sort of movies. And in this remake, fights in the remake. So the Asians come through, right? The North Koreans, the Chinese originally, then they recast it as the North Koreans. They come through downtown, I think Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. It's basically the West Coast of the United States gets invaded, and young American men have to sign up for the military, get rapidly trained like a Ukrainian former welder or insurance adjuster, get trained in javelin missiles and AR-15s, and they have to take on the entire Chinese military and Korean military in this movie Red Dawn. So that's and this was the remake of it in the mid 20 teens. Anyways, so but again it's about this fear of evil forces coming in from outside, from the East, especially from communist somewhere, socialist, authoritarian, human rights violating, forced labor using, tech stealing, economy eating, I don't know, just think of something bad and throw it at these Eastern country, and then it immediately sticks because nobody thinks to investigate these things. It really is a World War jukebox. This the ruling class of the United States, the West, can say whatever the fuck they want, and it nobody can question it, because even attempting to say something against it will immediately get you losing social, economic, sometimes your job, your university position. You just lose everything, and it makes it very difficult. It makes it is a great. It's kind of an ideological. Like I was like listening to somebody in a podcast talking about comparing the Russian tank formations, PT-76 and later, to the phalanx wall of the of antiquity, where like in 300, where you have this shield wall, not specifically just the Greeks, lots of British, French soldiers. You have a wall of shields, and then spears, and the shield wall makes it very difficult to break through. This a wall of shields. I dunk all the time at 300 because of its you know why, but It is true that the wall of shields is very effective at stopping invaders, or as a method of advance, because it makes it very difficult for spears, swords, and other arrows to penetrate, and it allows slow but constant progress of a front line of a military unit. And the Russians use this. It's part of their sometimes it's pincher strategies, but often it's like slowly and methodically rolling through with a lot more tanks and heavy coverage. Not specifically shields, but just like slowly and methodically rolling through with very difficult to stop armor at the front, and controlling territory. That, I mean, whatever you think about what's happening in Ukraine, that is happening, right? That's what the strategy they're using. But the West they don't really have all of their javelins, their Stingers, and their missile their overpriced $50 million missile defense systems that have an equivalent that's like $1 million in Russian or Chinese military. They're all like being thrown into the hands of like 15-year-olds who barely know, child soldiers, and America's like, go child soldiers. The 15-year-old gets blown up by a tank round, and that's the end of your $50 million system that they don't even know how to use. They've lost all their trained military that they trained the Nazis over the last 8 years, and I mean, anyway. But you're not hearing in the West. My point is that there's a shield in the West. There is a phalanx. There is a armored front line with spears, but it is the impenetrable wall of mind flaying by Western media, right? And Western information and narrative warfare, right? So if you try to break through that shield of, hey, but what if like socialism and these systems aren't that bad, and like look at this Asian country that's doing it, you hit immediately, the ranks close, and all the people around the water cooler in the university, the high school, the college, the tech office workplace, the conservative or liberal office workplace, or business, or wherever you're talking, your family household, your dinner conversation, your Discord, immediately the Western ranks close, and they say, what are you, some kind of, you're like a Putin stooge? What are you some kind of anti-Semitic, are you supporting tanky something? The ranks close immediately. So you have an impenetrable wall of psychological mind-flayed warfare. I mean, we're using the Stranger Things metaphors against itself, but you know, I don't hate Stranger Things. It's not really Stranger Things. It's just Stranger Things is just an artifact. It is a symptom of the West. But it's like they speak of the mind flare, right? In Stranger Things is this great demonic force coming from the upside down, this alternate dimension that is taking over people's minds and possessing them, turning them like body snatchers. Invasion of body snatchers is an invasion of communism that is going under the Stetsons of your American suburbs and taking over the mind, like American soldiers in the Korean War being brainwashed by, you know, advanced supernatural psionic Chinese communist telepathy and mind control, right? That's literally, there were entire books written about this communist mind control. That's why Americans are flocking over to the North Korean communist side in the Korean War. It killed 2 million Koreans. No, it's just people not. It's the opposite. It's people are getting unmind flayed. They're getting unmind controlled from the CIA world. It's a jukebox of mass disinformation, and now they're going to the side that is trying to feed, house, clothe, and take care of all people's needs across the world. It's called communism. It's called, as an indigenous person, it's like the way that many indigenous people pre-broken civilizations existed. But anyway, that's a whole nother stream. But the point is that like there is a closing of the ranks, and there is the Western military are actually not that effective. They just have a lot more bombs and guns, but their military keep losing in Vietnam. They're losing 1,000 times poorer funded, 1,000 times less technological military weapons and gear, but the Vietnamese still beat the crap out of the Americans. They beat the crap out of them. The United States lost that war. They half won in Korea, but they were stopped. The United States lost in Afghanistan. I don't know what. Well, I mean, in the sense of like actually winning and you know, not that America is necessarily trying to do anything in particular. It's just trying to. Well, it does have certain strategic goals, but it doesn't actually care if its soldiers die. It doesn't really care if Afghanistan becomes a Western liberal democracy all that much. It just wants to spend a lot of money and mainly disrupt Russia, China, and the solidification of non-capitalist, counter-hegemonic forces that will break Western American capitalist hegemony. Western and NATO-led hegemony. So, but in terms of like actually winning in a war, U.S. is not really good. It's good at like blowing things up and like just like creating craters and blowing up children and women. It's good at bombing the crap out of things, right? And just making messes. But I mean, how is anybody winning from that? How does that like actually benefit freedom and democracy? It doesn't do anything. It kills innocent people. It wastes American people's money and lives and soldiers. You wait your life. If you're in the U.S. military, you're wasting your life. You're gonna go die for billionaire profit and global evil. So, right, and that's why the suicide rate for American soldiers is 4 times higher. Because after your childlike brainwashing that you're the good guy, you're the good guy with the gun, right? Like a police officer in Uvalde. You're the good guy with the gun from America. You're going to Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam. And when your childlike fantasy, your comic book version of yourself and your country and your military, your star-spangled comic book liberal diseducation gets shattered when you start shooting at 12-year-olds in Fallujah or bombing hundreds of Vietnamese women and children in the rice paddies in Vietnam, or whatever else you're doing, right? Or operating the drones that are shooting 90% innocent people in Afghanistan from your PS4 controller in an unnamed military base somewhere in the U.S. black site, sitting there blowing up innocent people with your fucking PS4 Hellfire missiles, right? Then to be clear, the Vietnamese and Chinese and Korean and Russian militaries, they actually don't have anywhere near the level of self-hatred, self-loathing, and suicide rates, and just wanting to kill yourself of American soldiers, because at least they were not like fighting war needlessly for the profit of horrible people, imperialists, and ghouls and Lockheed Martin executives. And they don't have this kind of shattering of reality because, oh my God, I was lied to my entire life, and that's why they don't kill themselves. But Americans, the American military, they literally they are killing themselves at 400% plus rates. And if they don't kill themselves, they don't talk. They can't talk. They can't talk about what they actually did. They can never talk. So I was just listening to another Native Hawaiian say, "Oh yeah, all the Marines in my family, they just like go to war, they come back, and then they never talk again. And they just have nightmares for the rest of their life. It's because they did horrible, evil things. Everyone. They are the mind flayers. The U.S. is the one who knocks. The West is the one going into other people's schools and malls, right? Like the malls that existed in places like Libya that was advancing rapidly. The U.S. is going to Libya, invading them and killing them. And then so the narrative, it's very important to realize that is a horribly devastating, complete like flipping of your entire worldview, right? When you're out in that field, and it that alone is enough to break the person and get them to kill themselves or just wreck their life. Sometimes they don't just kill themselves; they kill other people around them, like American Sniper did. But if you like killing N-words and Muslims, then for them it's like, well, I had a great time killing all those Asians and all those dirty N-words and all those brown people, securing a future for my white race. So for them, well, but then you're a fascist. But the West is fascist. So, but anyways, but this is kind of off the topic of the Stranger Things. It's like it's all fun and games, but then it's also like this has and it's the eternal childhood and the harkening back to all these like movies and nostalgia. It's inseparable from the reality that we're in, but it's also like it is incredibly dangerous, and not just to people who are joining the U.S. military. It's dangerous to Americans because if they don't face, if we don't face who we are, like I always bring this up. I know we're Peacemaker, etc. So it's why I like Peacemaker, right? Because Peacemaker has like 80s rock and music, and American characters, and he's but like Neofeud, like at least what I try to do, it's like trying to address like where we are right now. Peacemaker, he has his hair metal. Peacemaker has his, he's a real fan of the same kind of characters that the Stranger Things Eddie, what's the guy? And let me close some of my tabs, so I got like fucking, I'm losing the plot with my infinite tabs. I'm gonna be a sprawling mess of mind flayed drool soon if I don't close some tabs. But anyways, this the 80s hair metal and the glam rock and the Dungeons and Dragons and the weird alt nerd shit, like Peacemaker's character is also like very much, he's got an American eagle in the front. He's got all of this, it's very much a thing that is consumable and fun for people that were raised in the United States, or what calls itself the United States. But it's also like, it's making fun of itself. Like, I'm kind of ridiculous. I have a weird bubbly body, and I have a literal freaking American eagle. And, there's Democrats, and I've gone over this. Like, there's like the disproportionately black but still terrible and also hurting their own people Democrats, like I forget all the names of all the characters, but there's the daughter of Waller, right? The black woman that is like actually running the CIA death squads and the military coups and the military U.S. empire interventions, getting people killed in South America, and going, oh my God, I'm working for terrible. Mom is terrible. Holy shit. And Peacemaker is like the Republican. Is like, my dad is a freaking fascist, like fucking Rumsfeld like character. Oh my God. My dad's like George W, but like smoking a lot more KKK laced white dragon shit. Like, oh my God, my dad's terrible. Like I was raised here, and I oh my God, this United States and a lot of people in it, it's like, wow, we're freaking terrible. And it's still like funny and entertaining, but it's like more self-aware in that way. And then also like it doesn't like solve the problems of the world inside the movie, obviously, but it's like, it's not like just glorifying and going, oh, wasn't it so awesome? Remember when the Russians were bad and we were all just children, and wasn't it great to be, I'm not saying that it was bad to be, watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and eating your Pop-Tart, and then, playing your D&D, playing your NES, going to the arcade, trying to get laid in the mall, having your 31 flavor fucking ice cream clone at the Baskin Robbins or whatever you had, right? But it's like we have to we have to kind of start, like, it's like there's a time to grow up, it's like kind of time to grow up. And so but it's kind of like, you can't make people grow up. You have to kind of like, you can encourage people, but you can't like force people to grow out of their bullshit instantly. But it's like, it is important to point out that there are other ways to tell these stories. I'm not saying that this show, I'm not saying this show sucks. I'm often using, as I often do, shows and pop cultural artifacts because the YouTube likes those, and it doesn't like when I come on and just say directly. But also, I like watching these shows and playing these games, watching these movies, etc. But then also, like, it's important to discuss like what they mean, what they can mean, what they could be doing, what they aren't doing, and and how they are like reinforcing things that are actually harming everyone, and including people in the United States, right? Because if people continue to think that all of the problems of the United States are caused by Russia and their military, Russia, I mean, literally, right? Biden just has been saying, right? It's Putin's price hike. It's Putin. Russia made your baby formula disappear. Russia made your milk $10 and now you are starving. Russia made your toilet paper, your Listerine, your USS Butterscotch cost $50 and you can't afford to go to the mall because Russia did it. Or China, one of those two. Russia is why we don't have any more semiconductors. Your job disappeared because Russia, right? And it's like that is not, that's being a child, you know. That's, or for Biden, that's just making money being an emperor, or the talking head for the billionaire emperors and the techno kings of the world, and the billionaires that run the Western plutocratic hellscape. But if you believe that, and if you repeat that and you accept that, you're just going, Russia did this to me. Russia did this to me. And you don't go, wait, maybe we suck and we are like stopping people from getting their material needs met because we are creating, number one, we are creating military aggression around the world. We have 800. We are the ones doing all of the military invading, aggressing, and moving into people's countries. We are the one on their fucking border, right? We're the one backing and funding coups and arming far right and putting their nuclear and missile arms all along their other people's borders, right? If you know, that would be the adult response. Again, that would be the adult response to go like, well, I mean, whatever Russia is, we should not be backing. We're calling ourselves a so-called democracy. I mean, and I know that's like a thing that most people are going, I don't know if this is, right? But like, if you know, I mean, we should not, at minimum, we should not be like funding the overthrowing of other people's democracies, which is why there's a major reason, one of the major reasons why there's a problem there. If we had let the German-France brokered Maidan deal go through and just let a regular vote go through, it would not be nearly as much of a conflagration in that Eastern European region as there is right now. If we had, you know, but anyways, so an adult response is not go, Russia is why my gas is expensive, so I'm gonna like go, yeah, I'm gonna join the U.S. military. I'm gonna go to fucking Ukraine and actually try to fight. You're gonna get yourself killed. Don't do that. You're gonna get yourself mowed down by a competent military. It's called the Russian military. They're gonna fuck you up, just like countless Americans have already died there, or run away screaming with their tail between their legs because it wasn't like shooting down a bunch of 16-year-olds in Fallujah, which was what they liked doing. But they're like, oh shit, they actually met intense, actual competent military. There's no competent military in NATO or anywhere in the West. It's over. It's over for them. They don't fucking know it yet. So don't do that. But that's not that is a childish response. What I'm going to do is I'm going to like throw money. I'm going to go and I'm going to fight evil mind flayers in Eastern Europe. I'm going to fight the undersigned and all these hellraisers. You know like Pincushion head. It's you know, what is his name? Pinhead. It's Putin head. You know, like Putin head. Hellraiser is coming to bring autocracy to Europe. I'm going to save the world. Supporting, funding, raising money, throwing my support, putting, you know, some flags in my fucking bio. I'm going to go over there literally and fight with French, British, and American idiots. And not the play by Green Day. Actually, I mean, just, you know, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to like, you know, and then I'm going to blame evil Russians for my gas and my gas being expensive and my homelessness. I'm going to blame them for fucking everything. I'm going to blame them for the collapsing economy. All the starving Africans, I'm going to blame them. Like, if the conflagration had happened, the world wheat would not be in a position where we're having shortages and future shortages, the fertilizers. You know, Russia starving Africa. No. If you hadn't done this, Russia would still be happy and the Ukraine might still be sending the wheat and all the other food out to Africa, right? But again, that's the child response, which is that everyone else is responsible for problems that are happening to me and problems that are happening to other vulnerable people. Everyone else is doing it. It's not me. Everyone else is hurting me. Everyone else is after me. It's all about me, like an infant, like a little baby, right? And that is not helped by shows that perpetuate that childlike mythology, that childish attitude, you know? These kids, the thing is, these kids are like 20, 21, some of them. And like, why are they still playing children? It's like, it's part of it is Netflix is a childish, like, I can't make a better show because I'm an unoriginal Hollywood executive that only knows how to make billions of dollars throwing infinite amounts of money into problems that I don't know how to solve because capitalism is fucking broken. You know, I'm like Elon throwing $50 billion into a capitalist abused capitalist micromanaged workplaces that make broken Teslas and break my unions. I'm like the U.S. military throwing $50 billion in F-35 that doesn't fucking work. I'm like CD Projekt Red, taking corporate buybacks of my own stock, like GE and all the other Fortune 500, buying back my own stock, getting myself a yacht, and then making broken games. Because I want to underpay all of my programmers, artists, writers to make garbage Cyberpunk 2077s, and then have a lot of good TED Talks and marketing. It's all talk and no action. It's all TED Talk. It's all CEO, Steve Jobs style headpiece, saving the world, right? Marketing and no actual and projection and storytelling about look at my beautiful metaverse VR headset that's gonna revolutionize reality and save everything from human connection to COVID-19, school and love and romance. Everything will be revolutionized. It's all talk. What happened with Mark Zuckerberg? Nothing happened. Nothing. It's all broken garbage and nobody gives a shit and he lost a lot of money, just like Elon. Right? But that is all part of this. But people believe it, and all the crypto bro NFT trading, that stands for non-fungus tokens. That means token characters that are not ents, that are covered in moss and lichens and other fungal life forms. That's what NFT stands for. In case you are late to that game, don't invest in it. There's no future in fungus. There's also a mushroom shortage because of Russia. Anyways, I'm joking about that last, but that's sarcasm, okay? But it's that's a childish mentality as well, which is that like I'm gonna be able to throw money into X and Y and Z and make a lot of money back without doing a lot of work. It's ultimately all of the Western world is just one long freaking scam. It's one long massive pyramid Ponzi scheme. And in the end, the people that get hurt the most, I mean, the thing is, people in the United States are not hurt the most. The people who hurt the most are in the global south. Like people that are literally starving by much larger numbers in Africa and Asia as we speak because of these massive, this fighting and this Cold Warring, that the Cold War that has already broken out, right? That this, coming back to this, that this is not addressing. Right, this is going no. Go back to your childhood. Just go back. Just go back to the 20th century. Everybody, let's just go back to the 20th century, because things are gonna really work out that way. Things are really gonna work out if we just imagine we're all in the Breakfast Club, and we just like some kind of cat poster, platitude bullshit Hallmark card. Lesson that is about believing in yourself or some shit. You shouldn't believe if yourself is a liberal, self-deluded bullshit artist. You shouldn't believe in yourself. You have to get a new self and then believe in that one. Just use the Force or MK Ultra installed psionic powers, and that will stop mind flayers. That's not gonna stop mind flayers. You don't even know who the mind flayer is. You don't know who his name is Vecna. You don't know who Vecna is. You think that Putin is Vecna. You think that Xi Jinping is Vecna. You think that some terrorist coming for you is Vecna. You think the Republicans think black, urban poor people are Vecna. They think that Hispanics coming across the border are Vecna. That are gonna flay the melanin into. They're gonna flay melanin into their white skin. That's the Republicans, and the Democrats are like Vecna is Russia and China. You don't know who the mind flayer, you don't know who the bad guy is. You are, not you, but it's like your ruling classes, the ideologies and the things you believe and the systems that you support. These are all the Vecna that you have to undo. But that's a lot harder than just like picking up a gun, right? Getting superpowers, signing up for the police with Hopper, signing up for the military with Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Iron Man, and Captain America. It's a lot harder than just signing up for what they told you to sign up for. You have to you have to really, and it's even harder than what the Western left is ready to admit as well, which is you have to deal with settler colonialism, racism, capitalism, and the fact that there are other countries around the world outside the United States and Europe and Canada, and you're sock damn Sweden, that's not something that even a lot of Western left of any color, but especially if you're the lower middle account, are capable of even dealing with. You know, and if you can't get past that, you're never gonna find the Vecna either. You know, you're just gonna keep shooting innocent people like an 18-year-old picking up an AR-15. You're gonna keep killing innocent. You're gonna get innocent people suffering and killed. Whether or not you join the military or the police, if you cannot deal, you cannot grow up out of these narratives that don't serve anymore. Well, they never did serve, but they certainly don't serve you now. Anyways, but you know, anyway, so that's the end of my super serious Silver Spook level 7. You know, DEFCON 12 Silver Spook level. We'll go back to the surface level of look at this guy's fucking demon horns. Anyways, but you know, like the I'm trying to find a picture of the kids. So you know, like the kids, you know, they are like teenagers now. The weird thing is they're like again, they're 20 something, and that's also kind of symbolic. Like, can you let the kids like do other stuff now? Can you let the kids just like, they're not kids anymore? Can you let the 20-year-old Gen Z people do other things now? Because they're like, I mean, of course, you know, they're making a lot of money and they're doing very well making these movies. But it's also like they're like 20 years old and you're gonna put them in high school and you're gonna kind of redo the same stories again. Like how many? But you know, that's also Rescue Rangers, and that's like a lot of the movies that are just like, you know, Ready Player One. These movies that just recycle all of the IP of the 20th and the beginning of the 21st century American world. Like Disney owns everything, right? So it's like, and like that's cool and that's cute and stuff. And I mean, it's good. I mean, it's funny, and it's like you look at it and you go, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. Why are movies nowadays, right? Movies nowadays are like, oh, I remember that. I remember that. I remember Applejacks. I remember Tony. Look, it's Rescue Rangers. Look, Donald Duck. Look at that. Look at that. Star Wars. Look at that. When you go to Walmart, it's like, oh, look, it's T-1000. Oh, look, it's that. Oh, look, here, buy a Funko Pop. Look, buy the stuff that from things that used to be available to you, and now you're just a poor, broke millennial or Gen Z person dying from COVID. Look at that. Look at all this old stuff that you just keep on consuming regurgitated retro versions of you know, falsely remembered a lot of times, because Terminator is a lot more based than people remember it. But anyways, keep consuming these ancient versions of things that you remember as you slowly wither away and die in wildfire, COVID, and you know, it's all this kind of stuff. So it's like and like, you know, I'm not saying you can't do that, but because like I like to go and play ancient retro stuff and watch retro stuff all the time. You know, but it's also like there's a way that like those can also, you know, if that's all you do, they, like I said, they can lock you into the past. They leave you in perpetual childhood. There is a reality, like, and boomers are go, all these millennials are all like perpetual little children. When are they gonna grow up and move out of my house? God damn it. You know, like eating their avocado toast, and there's something very irritating about that, because like, shit, man, we're making like 1/4 to 1/6 the wages that you made in relative terms. But also there is the other side that enables that. Not to say that growing up means moving out necessarily, but it does mean like trying to face your problems yourself. You know, trying to face your own problems, or whether that is like paying for stuff or getting your, you know, getting your actual education together, right? And not thinking wrong shit, right? There's a tendency to enable perpetual childhood among 20 to 30 and 40 and even 40 somethings now, because that's easier than telling children and acknowledging. It's easier than telling children the truth and acknowledging the truth that they have problems. They have serious freaking problems that their parents cannot solve. Their parents will not solve them. The boomers are going, fuck you, I'm out already, man. I'm just gonna YOLO. Hey, take it easy, guys. I'm gonna go get COVID and die at my yoga class, you know. And the millennial, you know, or just like, hey, everybody, I'm just gonna be old and watch the world burn from climate fires and nuclear war and whatever else. I'm gonna watch capitalism just eat everything. Take it easy. Have a good one. And like millennials and Gen Z, it's like it is legitimately upsetting when you watch somebody write a New York Times op-ed about millennials and Gen Zs. They're killing I don't know, golfing. They're killing marriage. All those. There's not as many of them, but they still have this kind of weirdness about it, right? And it's like it's irritating, but it's also like they're not going to turn around and solve these problems. Like we have to solve these problems ourselves, And so there's like that kind of enabling. I'm talking in a very like general perspective. This is not directly to do with Stranger Things, but the I feel like a lot of the actors in the show are like, like they're playing Boomer and Gen X the way that Boomer and Gen X, especially Gen X in this case, see their own childhoods, right? And you have like post Gen Z. I don't know what the age of these kids, but they're like Gen Z kids are like, these are not really things that we have connection to, but I guess we're gonna just play, because I don't think a lot of these young kids, they don't really know all these old movies, They don't know all of them. Certainly, they don't know all these old shows and shit. These are 15, 16, or they were like 12 and now they're 18, right? Year olds playing, half remembered versions of their parents' childhoods, and then maybe they're like, maybe we want to like, can we talk about our own lives? But that's the thing is, something I noticed is that like the stories, and this has been the case too. I mean, when you in the 80s, it was talking about the childhood of the 50s, right? That's like Grease and that kind of stuff, and Breakfast Club and all these shows, Crybaby. They're shows about the shows that have children are about the childhoods in the U.S. of people that are 50 years old, and they're often not about the childhoods and the teenhoods of the people who are teenagers right now, right? Now, some young adult fiction tries to address these things, right? And it's like written for young adults, but it's more in the book world. But most of the stuff that comes out, there's a lot of like indie stuff, like smaller stuff that comes out, but the mainstream stuff about young people and children is a 30-year-old perspective seen from wealthy liberals generally, and especially Democrats, because they run the Hollywood side of things. There's also the other side, but they don't dominate in the cultural production and movies and cinema and TV shows. It's seen from 50-year-old wealthy liberal perspectives. Everything is really, not just children's shows, adult shows too. And so it makes this kind of weird, brings about this sort of like weird time traveling phenomenon. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating. It's not really that important to what I'm talking about. But importantly, on this Chinese, one more thing I wanted to say about this one was that the solution, not that I have all the solutions, but like one of the things that has to be part of the solution is like, for the enemy, the reality is the enemy is in DC and it's in Wall Street. Any of the Americans, the mind flayer is in DC and it's in Wall Street. It is what is eating you. It's the entire plutocratic system of the United States that has never been undone, and it's never been nowhere in the West has it ever been undone. That doesn't mean it can't be done, but it just means that is actually what is eating you. Your gas is $10 a gallon, and your milk is $15. And your baby formula is expensive, and your wildfires, and your police shootings, your mass shootings, and your mass incarceration, and all of this, all your wasted money, your $800 billion that could have gone to feed, house, educate, clothe, and rebuild your infrastructure, that's going to wasted military money. That's going to get, it's ridiculous. $40 billion in 1 month is going to go to Ukraine to send billions of dollars worth of, shoddy missiles, anti-tank weapons and guns and satellite, anti-ICBM, hardware that's just going to get blown up and captured by Russians. Literally. It is just money thrown into you might as well just take that cash and throw it into a flaming trash can. If the U.S. just took 1 month of the Ukraine budget, the one it's going to throw into that, and just spent it on its own people, you could solve virtually all the problems. Not solve them, but you could deal so that they're not all crises. Virtually every problem in the United States, And you have a lot more to do. But so the enemy is not in Russia, it's not in China, it's not anywhere. It's inside your own country, in the United States. The people who, and like if the U.S. were to cooperate with China and stop trying to start war and aggress against them in Okinawa with the Quad, pushing Japan, India, militarizing Hawaii, Guam, all these places, wasting all this money and all this effort to aggress against China, start a war in Taiwan Strait, in the Philippines, in Vietnam again, somewhere, Korea, Okinawa get obliterated. If they cooperated, the U.S., China could be helping the U.S. people so much. Like, they could be helping get more free baby formula even. You need more of that. You need better economic. We could send you more, all kind of support. We could help shore up your jobs. We could, if you're just not spending military trying to fight China, you could take that money and reinvest it in your roads and your education and your everything. Right? You could be, lots of this stuff could all be dealt with. Right? And also the Chinese could also just directly help. Chinese know how to rebuild infrastructure, you know. If the U.S. were to join the Silk Road, I mean, in some future, or like the people in the U.S. or whatever federation of not capitalist entities that used to be the United States or whatever, if it's the United States, whatever it is, if the U.S. were just to join the Silk Road, China could rebuild all of the rail, the roads, the bridges, the airports, all that stuff. They could do it easily. They do this on a regular basis for, 98% of the world's population, 95% of the world's population is not in the United States, and they've already done it for the world. They could easily rebuild the United States infrastructure like that if they wanted to. Not if they wanted to, they do want to. They would be happy to help. They're happy to help. They help everybody. It would actually help everyone for the cooperation to happen. But the U.S., people who run the United States don't want you to have a road or a train or convenient mass transit or 50% solar panels everywhere in the United States. The Chinese could build they have the world's largest solar fields. They have like mastered all these things. They could help. They have to specifically build it, but they could do what they've done for Mexico, South America, Africa, infrastructure, technology. The thing is, U.S. has a lot of technology. You know, all they need is like some of the know-how and the will. The thing is, they don't have a lot of the most advanced transport and infrastructure. They don't have a lot of the 5G tech, but they could get help with that. They could get help with all of these things. That would help the American people. But the United States does not want you to be helped, so it wants you to hate. It wants you to hate Asians and Chinese, because if you were to figure it out, the losers, if the Chinese and the American, all of China and all of America, the people were to cooperate, the big losers would be Washington, D.C., and their neocons that are not going to sell any more missiles and F-35s. The losers would be Wall Street, who would not be collecting money from all of because the corporations are deeply limited under a socialist system and the Communist Party, and it's a lot harder to make vast quantities of money, and you get beheaded if you're a billionaire and executives. And that would hurt Wall Street if more cooperation were to happen. It would hurt Wall Street. It would hurt the big tech, because those guys get reined in and spanked in China. Like Alibaba's CEO, Jack Ma, was literally just, he was forced to stop a massive further consolidation across like a modern techno-feudal gilded baron. He wanted to do mass banking along with his big tech Amazon-like companies that he currently runs. And they said, no, you're not going to do that, because that would be detrimental to all of our people, and it would benefit you in terms of profit, like Elon or Bezos or Gates. And anyway, so my point is that like it would benefit all 330 million people in the United States, with the exception of the richest millionaires and billionaire and the oligarchic class and the military industrial complex and Silicon Valley big tech. It would help the economy, because people might actually be working on things again, instead of just like going around and trying to make money driving rich people's food around for $3 an hour. Here, have your gold-plated sushi roll, Miss Karen. And all of that would really help people if understanding across the Pacific were to build. It would help Hawaii, obviously, because we would be demilitarized. But they don't want that to happen. So they want you to stay. They want the United States ruling class wants the United States people to stay in their eternal childhood, hating evil Asians, Russians, Chinese, communists, socialists, whatever they are, not understanding anyone outside of America, and especially anyone in Asia, and especially in Russia, especially in China, in Vietnam. They want you to stay forever trapped in a prison of your own regurgitated 80s pop culture and retrofuturism and dystopian. There is no hope. You know, the prison is, the only future is America runs everything with Western liberal democracy, or total catastrophe free, like Don't Look Up, and climate and capitalist disaster. That is a trap. That's a liberal trap. It's a Western capitalist mind trap. Well, I guess we're all gonna suffer now. No, we don't have to all suffer. You know, we can work together. The East and the West can work together, and we don't have to all collapse into perpetual war, climate, apocalypse. That is it. That the dystopian and apocalyptic fiction, like Fallout, I love it, but you know, it is a mind trap, so that you cannot see out of your own. You cannot see out into. You're walled off from half of the possible futures. You can only see the disasters, where conflict continues, where lack of understanding continues, where diseducation and being stuck in the Cold War, which was an East and West capitalist communist war, continues. You can't see the future where all of the world's working together, right? All of that. So the apocalypse, well, obviously we're all going to nuke ourselves, or we're all going to climate disaster ourselves, and we're just going to be Category 7 Sharknadoes and Hurricaneados, and we're all going to be underground in bunkers with no electricity, living in some kind of Amprim or anarchist fantasy land, where we're all just, the right wing is libertarian. I'm going to have my gun under the ground like John Goodman in the Cloverfield movies, surviving, or I'm going to be the anarchist, like living in a fictional version of indigenous people's history, just like in my little group with no electricity, tending the earth or something that I don't know how to do. This is all fantasy land. You know, all of that. Solar punk is its own kind of, the solar punk that doesn't acknowledge the East is its own Western fantasy land. We're all just going to go back, and after everything collapses, we're just going to live on the rusting bodies of our cars. We're just going to grow a few handfuls of tomatoes and squash, and we're all going to frolic like some indigenous people that I like to fucking LARP as, just like anarchist communists and did in the very beginning when they plagiarized the Iroquois. That's all bullshit. The thing is, indigenous people, we don't always say this. Indigenous people know that the Asians aren't our enemies. We know like a lot of us know who Africa is, even who Russia is. We know who the South Central America is. We know who all these other people are. And we're like, we don't want this to, we would love, but we can't. It's hard to say that, right? That's why Western liberals and leftists say, Silver Spook, I don't want to hear. I want to hear about you talking to the whales and communicating to your sacred turtles as a native Hawaiian. It sounds really good to me. I like to hear about how you your sustainable horticulture practices, and I'll read a little bit of Braden and Sweetgrass maybe. I'll hear you about Black Lives Matter and racism is bad, but I don't know, what am I going to do about it? I don't know. But I don't want to hear about Asians, man. I don't want to hear about any Asians. But, the thing is, like, you have to hear about Asians. You have to grow up. Or there's not going to be anything to grow up into. You have to understand sooner or later. And that doesn't mean just throwing, like, some kanji characters and putting some Mandarin in your fucking bio. That's not it. You have to, like, actually know who these people are. I mean, that's, at least but it's you're gonna be like, oh, well, I like that one kung fu movie with Jackie Chan. You have to, like, understand who Asia is, who they are 60% of the world, by the way. You have to know who the East is. You have to grow up. You can't just be like, I'm gonna be a leftist that lives in anarchist or Marxist fantasy land, where I just, like, I'm gonna LARP indigenous people, or I'm a conservative, and I oscillate between being a Nazi trying to kill all the black and brown people at the border so I can have a great white country, to being a libertarian. Libertarian anarchist is just like the other side of fascism. It's like independent individuals selfishly manifesting their destiny, individually, either mutual aiding or mutual killing black and brown people. That's the fascist anarchist. The far right and the far western left oscillation is because they don't want to look outside of their own fucking belly button lint and grow up. And they want to live in solar punk hell. They want solar punk heaven, indigenous co-optation, or eco-fascism. We're all gonna eco die, and then I'm gonna have to defend my property, or we're all gonna eco survive the apocalypse. Like, how about we don't apocalypse ourselves? But that involves listening and actually hearing and understanding people of the East, you know. But that's so hard, man. I know it's so hard, you know. It's less hard for me because I'm not a white person and I'm Native Hawaiian, but it's hard. My dad can't hear that kind of stuff, and he's like more Asian and Pacific Islander than he is white, and it's hard. It's hard because it's a very good trap. It's a very good storytelling. You know, it's very good narratives. It's very good, very watchable shows like this one. But if you cannot hear past Mariupol into what's coming out the other side, if you can't hear past Hawaii into what's coming out of Taiwan, actually a lot of the people there that don't want to be killed in a war there, if you can't hear past, you know, if you can't hear past a handful of people, you know, in the Micronesia, and see the missile systems you're putting there and go, oh, it's so sad that you're poor in this little tropical country. If you can't hear past like the African skinny child on the cover of National Geographic into why is that child skinny and what military actually got the American base out. Hint, hint. It was the bad guys in Stranger Things, right? Who if you can't hear past, oh, there's a Syrian child that was bombed, but okay, well, who actually stopped the Syrian children and the self-determination of the Syrian people who had an election? Whatever you think about the president, who actually was in there to stop their genocide, killing, and bombing the Silk Road? If you can't hear past, oh, look, a sad child that got blown up, but you can't see that you were the one who fucking bombed them, and the other side that actually is stopping it, you are still a child. You're living in fantasy land because you're unable to see, and not just because it's sad for the Syrian children, which it absolutely is. You are unable to see a way out of the apocalypse that will be perpetual war to blow up any attempt to break global imperial hegemony, especially in the Eurasian continent, and also to Africa and to the Pacific and to Turtle Island. That is currently, Biden is the summit is icing out, and there is an international OPEC of lithium that is building between Bolivia, Mexico, and other South and Central American countries. And that is the future. That is the future. The future is a multipolar world. The future is, if there is a future, that's the future. But you can't hear outside. You can't hear and see that future if you're blinded by anything East, anything with a state, anything that the liberal fucking movies and Western media tells me must be bad is bad. If you can't hear that, there is no future. If we can't figure out a way to break through the Spartan wall of Western great even the myth of Greeks being the great white civilization, when in fact they were not as white as we thought, and actually they learned a lot what they know from Africa, from Africa and from the East as well. Anyways, but if we can't break through the phalanx of Western liberal storytelling and mind flaying, right, and get actually, this is what's going on. I'm not saying that actually, I'm saying you have to be able to hear that stuff. And then it's going to be weird and hard to talk to people in your circles about it. And it's going to be wait, what are you talking about? You can't say those things. China bad, though. China bad, Russia bad. We got to just send more money and weapons to go blow up the rest of the world. if you can't break back, if the peoples of the Western world cannot break through their own ruling class's mind flaying, the result will be apocalypse for everyone. So, anyways, that's a good place to stop because you know why? Because it's late in the day and I'm not really talking about Stranger Things anymore. So, anyways, I hope the kids can make other movies. I like the roller coaster and the Ferris wheel. Play more D&D. That's forget everything I just said. Play more D&D. Don't worry about the Satanic Panic. Wear leather jackets. Watch The Craft. I don't know why The Craft's in there. I forgot. And Red Dawn sucks. I don't like that movie. The end of Stranger Things season 4 is scary as shit. The first episode is like it's a very Freddy Krueger scary bad guy. I didn't like the black girl why was the young black girl wearing an American flag? That's kind of weird, especially right now. It's very like that's what's very expansive. It's like, why is a young black girl wearing an American flag like as a cape or something? It's like that's I can tell like two white guys wrote this story. It's like, is this like The Expanse where like all of a sudden we're all colorblind and we solve racism by young black girls playing D&D with white people and the black dude scoring the winning basketball 3-pointer? Like, very strange. I mean, anyways, I know that's not the point, but it's kind of like the optics of the first episode is just like, what's going on here? So but everything I said was more, yeah. So I'm not saying don't watch the show. I'm not saying don't watch the show. It's not really about, what I'm saying was not really about Stranger Things. This is about generally, the way I'm always talking. The show is very entertaining as always. I just wish, don't talk about fucking Russians, okay? Don't talk about Russians in the shows. Stranger season 3. This is an actual entertainment critique. Season 3 would have benefited from, you don't need Russians. The Mind Flayer is enough. I don't think it really you cannot, if you're gonna put Russians in, like Peacemaker, just make it like a little like a joke. Like, why do we hate the Russians so much? I don't know, something. But it was very like Russia's actually like fucking up inside us and it's gonna take us over. So anyway, that was like storytelling wise, that doesn't even really work that well. And I don't know. It's just this guy is scary though. I will say that this guy is fucking scary. He's like Freddy Krueger on steroids crossed with a Resident Evil boss. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, that's good. We got to do our Goth POC panel later on today. So, we got to get out of here. It is now time to sell Neofeud. Neofeud is a cyberpunk dystopic. Actually, you know what? I'm going to play the Neofeud trailer real quick. If you want a game that actually talks about the problems of the West, the United States, capitalism, racism, etc., in a way what that also is satirical, funny, has hippie Terminators and Predators crossed with the Shredder picking up cops. And really quickly, I just want to give a quick shout out to this. This was a really cool review that I had from a while back. It's called Pastiche and Critique, video game writing critique. This is a very in-depth critique of Neofeud that had a very interesting section in it. All of it was very interesting, but it does talk about how like Neofeud is made from the grist of all the pop culture and also historical and literature. It's made of all of the material of. It's very satirical and homage filled and made of all the postmodern grist of all of Western culture, basically. But kind of turns it against itself. But anyways. Where's the one about the Terminator? Yeah. Yeah. So in Neofeud, for example, one of the game's characters is an obvious homage to the T-800 model from the Terminator franchise, but instead of an iconic depiction of an efficient, remorseless killing machine, Neofeud presents a wounded and traumatized war veteran that became a cybernetic hippie and doesn't want anything to do with guns and violence. So Neofeud is, and also is like critical of the military-industrial complex. So that's one of the examples of like, because I was talking dunking a lot of shit all over all of these Western stuff, but there is a way to like use the Terminator and the Predators and the G.I. Joe and this is a reference to the Terminator-based pastiche. Looks like the there's a delinquent child who looks like young John Connor, but the essence is changed. Proto is key to protecting civilization, not from cybernetic annihilation, but from human-made systems of oppression. And he's a robot being saved by humans. So it's very much like, Neofeud has a literal Sega Genesis in the wall of a machine. Neofeud has a bunch of feudal characters sitting in corporate offices. I mean, that's like Western 1600s history being remixed with 80s Western history of, corporate boardrooms being the new throne rooms of the new feudal era of neoliberalism. But anyways, it's like there is my point in Neofeud is, and when I'm bringing this up on top of, I need to sell video games, otherwise we don't have houses, roofs, and food to feed our children here in illegally occupied Hawaii and doing indigenous life education and entertainment. But also, you can use you can use the memories of your childhood. These are all childhood memories and games that I have. I played a Sega Genesis when I was like 8. I had a God damn it, lost my tab. Okay, I'm gonna play Tab Fu. No, that's not it. Holy shit, where the fuck is it? Shouldn't have clicked off. Okay, anyways, I can get it again with my magical Mastodon. Yeah, anyways. So with Neofeud, you can use like science fiction and the robots and the 80s movies. There's Terminators, there's hippie Terminators, there's cybernetic post-human drug dealers. They're like there's like a Breaking Bad version of Roy Batty from Blade Runner. He's wearing the yellow jumpsuit, cooking up the best illegal drugs money can buy, but also happens to be like a former great scientist. He happens to look a little bit like a robot, but also is the creator of robots. But now he's forced to drug dealing because, so it's kind of like you can use all of the grist of the Western reality that you had to grow up in and learn how to speak in and watch movies and play games in, but like also try to critique and deal with the problems of the present, right? Because Carl Carbon and the main character is dealing with mass police shootings and mass inequality, right? In a collapsing dystopian slum where there's huge ethnic minorities are being tossed literally into piles of trash. Robots are walking through lines, being denied their existence rights because they don't pass a sentience test, and so it's dealing with the racial inequality, the economic inequality, the social inequality. The police shoot and kill innocent people on a routine basis, including robots. And so it's like Neofeud is both set in a time that is dealing with the present of the 20-teens. And I made this game about 8 years ago, so it still applies to this moment, but it's dealing with those problems of Black Lives Matter, dealing with those problems of continued military industrial complex, spending all your money, like I'm just talking about with Ukraine and China and Cold War 2.0, destroying everything. It deals with the problems of the horrific inequality that's not dealt with under a plutocratic system. Being a disabled worker and trying to get healthcare, and then they just say, well, just try not to fall over when you're coming up the stairs, right? That's what they told disabled children in classrooms. Just try not to die. Right? And this main character is like can I get some help? My body's falling apart. They're like, I don't care. That's your problem. And also we cut the budget. So your meager salary is being halved. So all those actual problems that, actual people today, not 1970s imagined liberal hippie Shangri-La experiencers, but actual people today are dealing with, and not just the middle class people, but everyone, the poor and the impoverished in the United States and outside, are dealt with in Neofeud using 80s and 90s, etc. pop culture and everything and science fiction. Neofeud is specifically more cyberpunk science fiction, but not exclusively. But a lot of it is playing on the tropes of science fiction, like the hippie Terminator. There's the unemployed rescue bot looks kind of like a Matrix Squiddy that is now, because of budget cuts to fire departments and EMTs, is begging for money in the DMV line. And and you've got the the homeless, mental health care denied JC Denton, right, slash Neo, trying to unravel conspiracies, but he's just kind of standing in line, not saving the world with the CIA, as JC Denton does in Deus Ex. So Neofeud, anyway, so my point is that Neofeud is a game that tries to examine all of these issues, not run from the issues, right? Not run into the childhood through the story, but try to examine, or at least, you don't have to say like every game and movie and pop, and not that every fictional work has to do that all the time, but they can like not hurt people and our prospects for a non-apocalyptic future, right? By like not denying the present, So anyways, but yeah, that's what Neofeud tries to do. So Neofeud is a game that's on Steam and itch.io. And Neofeud is also, it's over here. You can wishlist it if you don't have $14.99. If you have a second to give us even a small short review, it is greatly appreciated because it does increase the likelihood that people will discover the game in the Steam algorithm. And also, you can find Neofeud, as we often say, on the itch site as well. For Windows, it's for Mac, and it is also for Linux. And it is a game that is, it's a lot like Stranger Things in that way. Neofeud is like Stranger Things, but more based. Because I made it. Obviously, everything I do is based. I'm more based in the U.S. military. 800 military bases in almost every country on Earth. That's pretty based, man. That's pretty based. I don't know who's more based in the U.S. military except for me. And maybe Bases Loaded, a 1980s video game. Anyways, there's a lot of bases in that one. 1,000 if you play the game 1,000 times. Anyways, Neofeud is a game for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it's also a game that you can get without DRM, and you can get it if you don't have Steam, and it's also on sale on itch.io, so that really helps us out a lot. It's a game that is also give us the maximum revenue if you buy it on Steam, and you can also support us through Patreon at patreon.com/Neofeud, and where you can get access to updates on what we're working on at Silverspook, Hui/Cooperative, and also you can help us out with, you get the access to the Discord of Silverspook Discord, and you also can just support us in an ongoing fashion. Think about how much are the streams worth to you. Would you like them to keep happening? So that how much is it worth $1 a month, or $3 a month, or $5 or $20? If you have the access to the capital, can you give like more than that? Then whatever you can, it really does help to keep the roof and the lights on. Because, prices of everything are going up. I know it's hard for everyone, but prices are going up for us as well. So we can really use every dollar, certainly. Also, you can follow at Silverspook Games at octagon.social on Mastodon, which is, you can also follow Silverspook Games at mastodon.social for the games stuff specifically. And it is, Mastodon is a decentralized, non-capitalist, federated, open source social media platform, kind of like Twitter, but without the people that are harming Americans, like DC, Wall Street, and Silicon Valley, big tech, deciding what you see and what you don't see, to keep you an eternal child in your mind. However, while we have access to the Death Star satellites, trying our best to educate people, you can follow at Silverspook Guy on Twitter, and you can, for all of like my general takes on things, and then you can also follow the Silverspook Games for specifically game-related things, like Neofeud 2, which I'm currently working on, and other real quick snapshot. Here's a little snapshot of Neofeud 2 that you might not have seen before. Well, that's just me making my thumbnail today. But here is the current state of the Neofeud 2 denazification and demilitarization against capitalists and imperialists. Indigenous communist warrior. I'm currently working on animations for this character, so that's what this is. This is the weapon that they're using. They use this indigenous super advanced black. It's like a black hole / sun tossing weapon, and then actually fires mini bursts of mini antimatter that can destroy anything that they need to. including Nazis, capitalists, imperialists, racists, invading countries, And so this is one of the latest pieces of work on Neofeud 2 that I'm literally working on it right now. So you can get updates on that kind of stuff from following Terminus. Silver Spook Games. You can also follow Terminus Cyberstar, which is a cyberpunk RPG in the vein of games like Deus Ex and System Shock. It is a game that I'm the content director and lead writer on, and is a very much a game that is about dunking on all this crap. Like Call of Colonialism is a joke on Call of Duty, which Call of Duty is a game that the U.S. military uses to recruit people to sign up to join the U.S. forces to go commit genocide and blow the world up and bomb people into the Stone Age for billionaires. That's what the U.S. military is for, like I already said. So that's why that's what you can do. You can do that in your games. You don't have to just be like, rah, 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 let's all join and go commit war crimes in Iraq, right? Or Ukraine. And so this is a game that's also like Neofeud, a game that's about dunking on all of this stuff and critiquing all of these systems rather than just like kind of randomly pointing out that some stuff might be a bit bad, like Cyberpunk 2077 does. And being transphobic at the same time and making billionaires at the same time. Exploiting all the game workers that were not unionized at CD Projekt Red, by the way. Anyway, so Terminus Cyberstar is a game that you can check out, and it's coming out in the near future. It is currently completed, and the optimization of the art and the content testing is underway, but the game is coming soon. So follow it, join the Discord. Also, you can follow our good friend, brother, and member of the Silver Spook Cooperative, at _1983 Positive Synergy, who is doing very important work to try to save Koloa, shut down Red Hill, protect Mauna Kea, which is a sacred mountain here, return Ka'ava to its name away from the colonizer named Captain Cook here in Hawaii. Positive Synergy has a weekly stream on Twitch on Wednesdays to learn a lot. Specifically, a lot of it is really kind of focuses on things happening right now in Hawaii and also how they're related to other things in the world. And Positive Synergy has a Twitter. You should follow here, and you should also check out Positive Synergy's Bandcamp. And this really great album, Perfecting Profession, about from a Native Hawaiian's perspective on the present and also the past and the future. Deals with land back, a very important thing. Being a good comrade, and it is a very indigenous, like left-oriented album, and with really great music with very important and timely messages that you should definitely pick up and share with all your friends. And anyways, you can also follow. Hey, what's up, Big Teal? As I'm not looking at the chat a lot in this stream, but I'm trying to get YouTube videos that are mostly on track nowadays. But I'm trying my best. But I know I'm kind of going off a little bit. But that's what it is. Silver Spook. I got to do things in the. I'm gonna chalk it up to my spiralic, post-geographic and post-temporal spiralic temporality as an indigenous person. But anyways, also you can follow at Holly Argent at the Tech Fairy, who is the mod VA and partner in both marriage, making of children, and also of running Silver Spook Cooperative. Holly is also the producer and writer for Goblin Mother. Coming very soon is the next show of Music, Mischief, and Monsters on the Kate Nix Lullaby Lounge. Holly is currently working very hard on that to get that show done, which is going to be mid-June is when the first episode is coming out. And Holly is also working on the Twitch Magic Story Time show, which is a Twitch-streamed magic show. And Holly is also the primary caregiver to the two children, or Kiki, here at the Silver Spook Cooperative. On top of writing books like Woman Part 1, which is a book about a woman raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity, and is not a historical retelling, but a work of fiction that lends a different perspective than what is usually read. And this is a book that also supports everything we do here, as the sales do go to directly help us pay for the lights to stay on, so I can keep making streams and videos for you. Also, Decolonators, like I talked about earlier, you want an actual educational thing that you learn something when you play it, not just like get diseducated like Stranger Things. You can play Decolonators, where you kick capitalist colonizer butts out of Vietnam in retro Arcadian glory. So anyways, do check that out. Maybe with myself and Luna Oy, a Vietnamese communist Asian person. Again, listening, the first step, like I said, to listening to the East and growing up out of your 13-year-old D&D playing childhood, as interesting as that was, but becoming an adult, is listening to people from the global South and actual revolutionary, successful socialist-based countries. And this is the first step: is you have to play Decolonators. That's like basically like that's like the preamble to all of your education. If you don't play Decolonators, you haven't even started your education. That's like TM education. If you want an education, you got to. I'm just kidding. But I get it. You don't have to do anything. You can do whatever you want to do. But Decolonators is a game that does support everything we do here. That is the Oh, I forgot one thing. You can also. Sorry, I can thank everyone here. Oh, quick ad. Silver Spook is going to be talking about himself in the third person for the foreseeable future. Sorry. Silver Spook panel number next is being alt, goth, and person of color, part 2, which will be in about an hour. I'm sorry. I gotta. Oh shit. I gotta. So this is happening very soon. It's in about. Oh shit. Fuck. That date is wrong. 5/28. That's today. This is happening today. I'm sorry. The date's wrong. I fucked that panel up. John Romero's on it, but I fucked the panel date up. So the panel's happening today at in an hour. So thank you very much for watching and listening. Thanks for Holly for modding. Thank you very much, patrons. Until next time, keep it Mary Shades Plus. Be excellent to each other. Watch whatever show you want to watch. Please don't just like make all the Russian and Asian people bad. That's childish. And have a good one. And play more D&D, and don't let the mind flayer get you. Don't let the State Department actual mind flayer flay that little minds of yours or big minds of yours.